one by one.
Good morning, Tom. I'm right here on the number 2 mic, I think. Am I coming in good there? Sounds
Actually,
like
you're
I
on
am.
number three.
3, okay.
Okay.
We went to Georgia, Tom. I don't know how to count, so it's okay. I mean, in Georgia schools, we don't learn the alphabet till we're in the 5th grade. So.
Hey, I grew up in Eastern Kentucky with the three R's stood for reading, writing, and wrestling.
And we hear you Eastern Kentucky guys like to get in with them gators too. We've heard there's gator wrestling over these hills. I wouldn't want to be caught dead up here sometimes. I get it. It's good to be here.
It's always great to have you. Came up with a little bit of rain this morning, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But you made it safe and sound, and I guess the rain will be sticking around a good part of the day. When Chris joins us, we talk about current events, things in the news, whatever gets him disturbed, and that pretty much includes everything on the face of the earth. We do appreciate it. People look forward to you. I get comments that they enjoy the segments that we do. But lots of things going on in the news. I'll mention some, and you pick one, and we'll sort of go with it. One is the demonstrations that take place at Donald Trump rallies and so forth. Number two is the trouble that Hillary Clinton is in. And, number three, who's going to be Donald Trump's running mate? Those are some things that we can talk about. But as you came through the door this morning, I saw that you had something on your mind. So what's your main topic of the morning?
Well, Tom, I tell you, these protests are just absolutely hideous and pathetic. I watched, it was, this is Thursday, I guess it was Tuesday night. He was in Albuquerque, and my brother actually used to live there. He was in the Air Force, and it's a beautiful city. And it was just unreal watching the events play out over television late in the evening after he was during his speech, but especially afterwards, after he had already left town. The rock throwers, the police getting hit with tear gas. I mean, it was just unreal that a group of people, anarchists, would break the law. And it's so wrong on so many levels. Number one, you don't have to like Donald Trump, but I know there's a lot of people out there listening this morning that don't. There's a lot of people that don't like him. They may even vote for him, but they hate him. And there's a lot of people that, they get up in arms about some of the things he says. I get up in arms sometimes about the things he says. But it's funny that in 2008, when we had a liberal running for president, Mr. Obama, I didn't see one demonstration of conservatives out there throwing rocks, busting glasses, busting into stores, shooting at police, using profanity, using the N-word, using all sorts of other words, putting their middle finger up. I didn't see one demonstration like that. The media has tried to pin some of the, when the Tea Party came into being near the 2010 time during the midterms, they would pick out one redneck in the group of 10,000 and use his comment and say, well, this is how all the Tea Partiers are, which was just how the media handles it. And they're handling this violence basically the same way, to where they're blaming Donald Trump for the violence. And let me just go on record this morning and telling you that Donald Trump is not the reason that these people are protesting. They may use him as their scapegoat, but they're breaking the law. And I think what bothered me the most was the actions of the police. And I respect the police, I do, and I am as pro-police as anybody out here. But when you're sitting there watching a city being burned down and torn down and destroyed, and going through these people are again vandalizing stores, throwing rocks, doing things like that, they need to be arrested. They need to be hauled into jail. And from what I understand, I don't think there was one arrest Tuesday night in Albuquerque. There was one guy yesterday that got arrested in California when this happened again. But my point is have we gotten to the place in America that only, if you don't agree with somebody, that is now the norm, that you go out and you do these things. And, there's a lot of rumor going around in the last few days that these were not spontaneous protests. They never are. They're planned. And, and I'm just going to say it, and I'm probably going to get in some deep water here, but I would not put it past the Democratic Party to be behind some of this. Soros and all these left-wingers and all these loons that are out there, You know, because the more that narrative gets out there that Donald Trump is inciting violence and he's inciting these things and he's the reason for this is going on, then that plays into their hopes that people will ignore their candidate who they're going to be putting up in November and her problems, which may very well put her in jail. But yeah, it does bother me. It was very disturbing to see the images. It was very disturbing to see how the media covered it. MSNBC, they're all of their reporters that covered it basically to a person blamed Donald Trump. They said, well, you know, if I was out there in Albuquerque and I heard some of the things he was saying, I'd be protesting too. Really? Well, that's just brilliant. That's just mighty stupid to be saying something like that as a reporter. But then we've come to expect nothing less from MSNBC. So that's that. But that was my opinion, Tom. I don't know how you saw it, but I tell you, it was a pretty pathetic display of juvenile delinquency and the police doing nothing about it.
Well, we've seen that happen. We saw it in Baltimore when they were told to stand down. But I don't know if I was a professional police officer, a police chief that was bound to uphold law and order. I don't know if I could. I don't think I could have followed those instructions when I see crime around me. I would have ordered them in and then took the consequences and let the public opinion fall where they may. We do know that from reports at the time that Soros was possibly involved in the Chicago episodes with the many riots and fights that went on even inside the hall. We know that he was there. We know that he paid a rent-a-mob to protest, and that turned violent. And Trump, in order not to see anyone get hurt, canceled his speech. So this is nothing new. Rent-a-mob and the Democratic Party and the rich far-left liberal loons such as Soros. This is pretty much business as usual.
This is their playbook, and I heard some commentators over the last few days use the word the Ferguson effect, and again, I respect the police departments out there. I hope any police officer that's listening to me this morning understands that I have the deepest respect for the police community. These men put their lives on the line every single day for very little money, to be honest with you, and I respect them, but I'm afraid that the political machinery above them is going to get a lot of them killed, because it was not just the fact they didn't do anything, Tom. They were putting their own lives in danger. Look, when you're getting rocks thrown at you, and I mean, you know, there was no shots fired, but I mean, there's no telling. People could have had guns there. There could have been a number of things that could have went even terribly far worse than what they did in Albuquerque Tuesday night, and even California yesterday, over basically a group of people that are angry at a political candidate for the things he's saying without really even understanding what he's saying. And I'm going to just go ahead and take a shot here at these protesters. Some of them can't even read the signs that they were carrying. I mean, they were holding signs up that some of them couldn't even read. And it's just pathetic to me that they would lower themselves. But I'm afraid that this is just the beginning. And my concern is for the safety of not only the police officers, but the general public at large, because there was a lot of people that were out on the streets in Albuquerque Tuesday night when this was going on. And Tom, ultimately, eventually, somebody is going to get hurt, and they're going to get killed, and there's going to be a death, and then game over. It's going to be incredibly bad to see that happen. And again, these people that are inciting this violence, the race baiters and these people like this, they are just as responsible to me as the kids, the juveniles that were out there doing this. And a lot of it is over the illegal immigration issue. Let me go ahead and just interject this into this conversation. The purpose of this protest Tuesday night, a lot of this was Hispanic, Latino people that were upset, and they are upset at Donald Trump's call for a more secure border. They're upset with his calls to build a wall around the country to keep illegal immigration out. And again, the media frames that as him being racist and him being a segregist, that he's trying to build walls in America when we should be opening our borders to everything. And that's the two trains of thought. You've got one train of thought that says, we let everybody in, we don't make them come illegally, we don't make them go by the rules, open our border, everybody come in, and that's destroying our country. Donald Trump is only saying what a majority of Americans really feel, that if they're coming in, they've got to come in legally. They've got to come in the right way. Tom, millions of people in this country that have come from other countries that have migrated to this country, but they've come the right way. They've come legally. And it's not just an insult what's going on to the American Native people, the Native Americans here, and I'm not talking about Indians. I'm talking about people that are born in America, just American born. It's an insult to the immigrants. It's an insult to these people that have come the right way. They have come and went through the process, and they've become American citizens. But again, that always gets lost in the narrative. They never talk about that. It's always that he's just seeking to segregate people and push people out, and that's not true. And there's a lot of things I have a lot of trouble with what Donald Trump says. Trust me, I do. But on this issue of illegal immigration, I'm with him 1,000%. What he's saying is what needs to be done. It's a tough call. I'm not sure we can deport everybody, but you've got to start somewhere of making them follow the law. A country without laws crumbles at its foundation, and we're on the brink of doing that here in America.
I remember, speaking of a couple of thoughts here, speaking of the number of immigrants, illegal immigrants, years ago, we were given the figure of 25 million, and we knew it was more than that. Then it dropped to 20 million. Then it dropped. Now they tell us there are 11 million illegal aliens in this country. When Donald Trump made a statement, everybody ballyhooed him, and I did some. I saw an article published by someone who saying Donald Trump was wrong, and I responded to it and told him Donald Trump was exactly right, because as I said at one time, there were 25 million. We knew it was more than that, and the number has not gotten smaller. I can guarantee you that. So that is true. I remember as you were talking there, I was thinking about Kent State, and with students from Kent State pounding a few National Guardsmen that had rifles with rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Now those guardsmen could have stood there and been stoned to death.
Right.
Or they responded, and they responded in a life-saving manner, and I hate to say it, but what comes around goes around, and those students, you don't take a rock to a gunfight. And this is what they were teaching at Kent State, where you could go in the student center and you'd see posters of Chairman Mao and
Exactly.
things like that. They were so far out
Exactly.
of touch. It was so liberal that they were out of touch with real life, and many people in public life are today. We've got people that are in the Senate and Congress that are so liberal they are out of touch with American life. And I figured that there's probably, I'm going to say 40% of the people hardcore Democrats, 40% on the very conservative side, traditionalists, and then you've got a group in the middle that they sort of think things through, and they may be for one side now and the other side a little bit later. But that's where we come to. It's right versus left, and few in the middle.
There's few in the middle, and Tom, not only that, and you know what's the sad part about that to me is that, again, I don't blame the police officers themselves, because these men, again, are great individuals, and ladies too, women and men, out there on the lines, giving their all, putting their life on the line to protect society, to protect our communities, to protect our citizens. And when they're told by their hierarchy, and this political machinery that is in place, that is so scared now after what happened in Ferguson, to uphold the law. And look, I'm going to say something sort of ugly here, and I hate to say it this way, but if you break the law, if you are a lawbreaker and you go out there and you throw rocks at police and you point guns at police and you do the things that you're doing and you break glass and they tell you to stop and you don't stop, I'm sorry, if you suffer physical consequences, that's not the police's fault, that's your fault. That's the criminal's fault. And the narrative, though, in the media is that they want to blame the police. I heard a comment that the Albuquerque hierarchy out there, which, again, I respect the police department in general, but the political machinery I have no respect for, because they get on television Tuesday night and they applaud the police. They're saying, well, they showed great restraint and they showed great courage in not reacting to these protesters. But again, by letting the protesters do what they do, all they're doing, Tom, is giving a heads up to other cities. They're showing protesters in other cities, hey, we can do this, and the police ain't going to do nothing to stop us. We can bust glass out. We can scream and burn cars and burn the American flag. And again, we live in a free country. You can do those things. But when I heard, I think it was I'm not sure who said it, but he said it perfectly. He said, we in America have a right to free speech, but we do not have a right to break the law in anarchy and destroy businesses and destroy cars and destroy property in protesting, even though we have freedom of speech. We don't have the right to be lawbreakers.